This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the tips of the day. This is Christina Coluccia. I'm head of business advisory at Woodburn Accountants and Advisors. Yesterday, we were looking at the types of legal entities that can be set up in China. And I was reflecting on representative offices, what is their business scope, what are the criteria, and generally now who is setting up representative offices. So today we're going to be talking about limited liability companies. And unfortunately, I don't have a slide to show you the term limited liability company, but for every setup I'm going to talk about or type of entity I'm going to talk about now, it is ultimately a limited liability company. The issue is that in the media and when you do Google searches, you always find these terms like WFOE, FICE, joint venture. And so that is why I've set up a couple of slides now to just highlight what these things mean. So a WFOE is a wholly foreign-owned enterprise. This was the type of entity that foreign investors initially used historically to set up their own structures in China. What a wholly foreign-owned enterprise or entity means is that it is a wholly owned company and it is wholly 100% foreign owned. But the actual structure is that it is a limited liability company. Nowadays, a WFOE, in my opinion, would be defined as a consulting company, training company, restaurant company, service-oriented company that does zero trade, right? No import and export rights, okay? No trade, no manufacturing. It is service-oriented. Keep in mind that for consulting companies, training companies, restaurants, management consulting firms, accounting firms, et cetera, there are separate business scopes, something I will be touching on in tomorrow's episode, that have to be created to specify the actual activities occurring within that entity. The next type of term you may have used was or heard was foreign invested commercial enterprise, of FICE. Again, exactly the same as a wholly foreign owned enterprise. The only difference is related to its business scope, meaning that it is anything with trade. So wholesale trade, retail trade, e-commerce, manufacturing, basically import and export rights are granted within the business scope of the foreign invested commercial enterprise. But ultimately, you're setting up a limited liability company. The next is a domestically owned enterprise. And I hope that that would connotate and make sense to you that it basically means it is a 100% Chinese owned, mainland Chinese owned company. And this includes all types of businesses, okay? So there's all types of entities that can be established under this. It is a different application procedure, although now with the new foreign investment law that was implemented January 1, 2020, it should all be unanimous in terms of the application procedures. But ultimately, and I still think it's still going on, that it is slightly different, documents are slightly different, and the registration period is slightly quicker, okay? Now, why am I highlighting this? Because as a foreign investor, you'll be thinking, you know, Chinese-owned enterprise doesn't relate to me. It will relate to you if you are in such a rush, you're in gung-ho mode to get into the Chinese market, that you want to bypass the formal registration procedures as a foreign investor, and you choose a mainland Chinese employee or partner to establish their own entity to start your trade, okay? In certain circumstances, when you are also trying to get capital and investment, you may be forced by these investors to set up a company as quick as possible. And in that case, you may use a local employee to do that on your behalf. Just remember, there is a risk associated with this. And you have to think about all of the details to fix that structure at some point to make sure that you are the owner of that entity. The final type of legal entity is a joint venture. And basically, a joint venture is a partnership between a foreign entity or individual and a Chinese entity and individual. Again, includes all types of businesses. Why would somebody set up a joint venture? Generally because the Chinese partner has the network, has the abilities and activities to grow and accelerate the growth of your business in the Chinese market. Could also be that if you're in a sector that's prohibited and restricted, need a Chinese entity or individual to help you to set foot in the market. It does require a joint venture contract. Don't forget that. It needs to be formalized. Think about all aspects within that joint venture contract. Think about exit strategies. Precautions have to be made. With any entity, joint ventures are a little bit more critical because every time there is more than one shareholder, you are negotiating consistently about the journey that this company is doing in the Chinese market. You are basically getting into a marriage and you are formulating this relationship to make sure that you don't end up in a divorce. So think very wisely about all of these types of structures, what suits you best, but ultimately, whether you're setting up a WFOE, FICE, joint venture, or domestic company, it will come down to your business scope as to what you will be performing and what activities you will be doing in the Chinese market. Ultimately, the type of legal entity you're setting up is a limited liability company. For any further information, reach out to me and I'd be happy to answer all of your questions. Take care and goodbye.